I'm gonna set the tone, historical context, right? So I don't know how many people know about Oakland and specifically West Oakland. So I hope to share a little context on that, the history of West Oakland, how it came to be. Then we're gonna talk about what is it like today from our standpoint. Then we'll get into our alternative, which involves Mandela Foods Cooperative, and also a very interesting project working with corner stores called the Healthy Neighborhood Store Alliance. We call it HENSA for short. Don't get caught up in the acronyms. We don't. It might change tomorrow. And then we'll talk a bit about our challenges and some of our successes. So, California, wonderful history, very interesting diversity out in California. One of the original groups in the Bay Area now is what we call it, but one of the original peoples there were the Ohlone people, an indigenous group. And apparently illegal immigration was a problem back then because they had some Spaniards come uninvited. And one of these folks in the 17th century, it was a soldier in the Spanish army. His name was Luis Maria Peralta, and we have a whole bunch of stuff named after Peralta back home in the Bay. But anyway, let me tell you a little bit about this guy. I don't know much about him, but what happened is he was fighting with the Spanish army, apparently against the Ohlones and displacing a whole bunch of people. But apparently he did something spectacular enough to where the Spanish army gifted him 44,000 acres of land. That is the entire East Bay to one person. Entire. I don't know how many people he had to kill, how many people he had to displace to get that. Because in a war, you get rewarded for plunder. So I don't know, but he had to do something significant to get 44,000 acres of land. So this is really like the roots of West Oakland and Oakland in general. So of that 44,000 acres, you have this little slice called West Oakland. How West Oakland came into being, Luis Peralta, gifted some land to his sons, and then they, sold it and subleased and everything like that. And one of the people that his sons sublet to was a guy by the name of Horace Carpentier, and that was Oakland's first mayor. So he got his land from Luis Peralta's son. So just a little insight on, West Oakland. So Horace Carpentier. Actually, he was he bought some land from one of the sons, but then he illegally sublet the piece of land that he bought, and that's like the piece of land that's what we would call now West Oakland, the beginning of West Oakland. Next one, please. So, in 1869, something very important happened for West Oakland. The last stop on the Transcontinental Railroad was placed in West Oakland, or the first stop, depending on your orientation. And so, this led to like a rapid population growth. And so this is where we get a lot of the early diversity. Chinese immigrants come in for the railroad, but can only live in a certain area in the city because of racism, discrimination, and housing. We have some Portuguese come in to work in factories and whatnot. So a whole bunch of folks come to the Bay because of the railroad. So with the increasing population growth, there was a whole lot of African Americans from the South who some of you know about, especially if you're familiar with labor organizing. They were the Brotherhood of the Sleeping Car Porters. And so they were working on the Pullman Porter line, and Pullman Porters introduced the sleeping car into the railroad. So, if you're gonna make a cross-country trip, you should have somewhere to rest your head and relax on that 10-day journey. And so this is the roots of a lot of the union organizing in West Oakland. Very interestingly, we're here in Detroit. You spoke about Grace earlier. She's actually one of the people that inspired me to switch my major from mechanical engineering to urban and regional planning. But one of her inspirations is A. Philip Randolph, who was very successful. He was the first president of the Brotherhood of the Sleeping Car Porters, the first all-black union. And we all know why they had to be all black, so I don't think I need to go into all of that. But after he started the Brotherhood or whatnot, he got very engaged in the politics around World War II and trying to ensure fair hiring practices for African Americans in the shipping and defense industry. So California was building a whole bunch of ships. We have a naval base that's abandoned now in West Oakland. But that's one of the connections between us and Detroit. A. Philip Randolph, pretty cool dude. Next one, please. And so after World War II, we see what we call the rise of the auto-dependent society. We see the destruction of black communities. Interestingly enough, these are other Detroit, West Oakland connections. So in Detroit, for those of you who know, they have Black Bottom. It was the cultural, economic life of Black Detroit. Very important place. But after World War II, you know, people started getting kicked out, gentrified, eminent domain. The government starts to take land from people. The same process happened in West Oakland. 7th Street is our version of Black Bottom. Tons of locally owned businesses, tons of nightclubs, jazz, all that cool music that everybody likes to listen to coming out of Cali, the jazz, the blues. That's where it was coming from, 7th Street. But unfortunately, due to a couple of big projects, we had public transit. It was, for those of you from the area, the BART tracks. You know, West Oakland BART station was formed there. A big U.S. post office was built. And of course, you know, the government said that we're taking this for the benefit of the public good, and so we can displace whoever we want, because that's the police powers that the government does have. And so we see some other connections between West Oakland and Detroit. In Black Bottom here in Detroit, they actually had a cooperatively owned grocery store back in I think it was the 40s or the 50s. But it was a place where people owned businesses that benefited the community. And so, interestingly enough, our store is now located on 7th Street in West Oakland. So we like to try to say that, not that we're bringing back that 7th Street vibe, because once it's gone, you can't get it back, but we would like to assist in the aid and recovery and the revitalization of 7th Street. So the redlining, the housing discrimination, the eminent domain, the police brutality led to the rise of the Black Panther Party. For those of you who don't know, West Oakland is the home of the Black Panther Party. But they did work all over the Bay Area. They had chapters all over the country. But one of the things that was really important for the Panthers was that food was a social issue and a political one. They saw that the community needed a good place to eat, but they also knew the politics of that. And so one of the things that they did was the free breakfast program that has become a model for the government. Government was not providing free breakfast for low-income people prior to what the Panthers did. So this is a phenomenal thing that they don't get credit for, because, you know, mainstream media and society views them as these, you know, radical Black gangsters, basically. But they were also very highly educated and politically minded. And so without people like the Panthers and tons of unnamed activists in the Bay Area and in West Oakland, people like the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, we wouldn't be able to do stuff that we do at Mandela Marketplace and Mandela Foods Cooperative. So off the bat, we have to acknowledge that and understand that we're not trying to reduplicate, we're not them or anything like that, but they paved the way so that we can have a strong organizing aspect in West Oakland. And that is what's keeping West Oakland alive through all of the destruction that happened. Like, there's still a great community there. There are still people who've been in the neighborhood. There are people that organize around the air pollution, and they've actually recently been able to close one of the #1 polluters in California, the Red Star Yeast Factory. But it's stuff like that that keeps the community together in the face of all of this exploitation and discrimination.